The top stories. Government gets new financing approval. Workers strike at 2 companies and another whitewash for Windies Women. Welcome to Nation News for Tuesday, November the 18th, 2014.
No matter where you are in the world, at home or abroad, Nation News keeps you connected with what's happening in Barbados through our website, video newscast, and online e-papers. So stay connected with Nation News. Your news, your time, your way.
The government is a little closer to accessing badly needed concessional interest loans. That's because the House of Assembly has granted permission to the government to borrow $50 million to join the Development Bank of Latin America, which will offer funding at rates well below what Barbados can now access on commercial markets because of the country's poor credit rating. Minister of Finance Chris Sinclair piloted a resolution in Parliament. Leader of the opposition, Mia Motley, said the Barbados Labour Party supported the idea of the country becoming a member of the Caracas-based bank, but she had concerns about the $100 million cost of joining and some of the terms of admission. The bank, known by its Spanish acronym of CAF, was created in 1970 and made up of 18 countries of Latin America, the Caribbean and Europe, as well as 14 private banks. From one development bank to another, the Barbados-based Caribbean Development Bank, and a former president saying such institutions need to be protected from political interference. Sir Neville Nichols said this is one of the key lessons left by the first president and Nobel laureate Sir Arthur Lewis, which is serving the institution well. Speaking during the launch of the Sir Arthur Lewis Centenary Lecture, Sir Neville said one of Sir Arthur's conditions for accepting the CDB presidency was that no project could be put forward for consideration by the board without a favourable recommendation from the president. We have more news of industrial unrest among workers with stoppages at 2 companies. First, at Rotherley Construction, a strike has affected work on several sites, including Sandals Resorts. The exact nature of the dispute was not known at the time of preparing this newscast, but we understand that about 400 workers employed by the company downed tools just after 10 o'clock. About 6 major projects and a few smaller jobs were hit. And over at Precision Packaging Inc. at Lower Estate, the entire morning shift also walked off the job. The 18 workers were tight-lipped about the reason for the action, saying only that the Barbados Workers' Union would speak on their behalf. Precision Packaging is a manufacturer of plastic items, including the plastic bags used by most major retailers on the island. 14 secondary school students will attempt to solve a real-life business challenge on Friday as part of this year's Classroom to Boardroom initiative. The program, hosted by Rotary Club of Barbados South and sponsored by Digicel Business and First Citizens, is one of the local events for our Global Entrepreneurship Week. The events coordinator is Derek Brown.
That's a unique opportunity. You don't get that in education, to work on something that's real and then present under pressure in the boardroom. So I'm quite excited, and that's what we've had. We've had some really brilliant ideas that we've taken forward by Virgin, Automotive Arts and Lime previously.
And of course, it follows that teachers are required to help steer young people towards the possibility of setting up their own businesses, as we hear from Natasha Beckles.
Our special coverage of Global Entrepreneurship Week continues today with the Teachers Forum at the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industries offices. Teachers from schools across Barbados got a number of tips on how to foster and encourage entrepreneurship in our schools. I spoke to 2 of the facilitators. I'm here with the facilitators of the 2014 Global Entrepreneurship Week Teachers Forum, Marsha Ann Clark and Paul Seeley. And we're going to be talking about how teachers can improve entrepreneurship in Barbados. So, Ms. Clark, first of all, tell me, what role do teachers have to play in fostering entrepreneurship in Barbados?
Teachers have an extremely critical role to play in fostering entrepreneurship. Teachers are the people who spend the majority of time with our children. And we know that if we're going to change a culture, if we're going to change a nation, then the children are the future of that nation. So the teachers who are impacting them, they are a critical and a key element. We have to look at the entire system, and they have a very pivotal role in that influence.
What are some of the tips and techniques that you pass on to the teachers when you're training them?
So as Marcia said, we went through some really simple ideas like how to quickly identify learning styles, because teachers are the experts where communication is concerned. Because they're really the leading programmers of the mind where children are concerned. So that was one skill. There's some other skills that we didn't have time to do, but they now understand that they are the leading programmers of the minds of children.
And there you have it, some information about how teachers can improve and foster entrepreneurship in Barbados.
The Business and Management Training Institute, BIMAP, remains in a tight financial spot, even though it has cut its deficit by almost 3/4 in 2 years. Chairman Benson Straker and Executive Director Dr. Sonia Greenidge Franklin have told BIMAP's AGM that the organization had reduced the gap from more than $400,000 in 2012 to $107,000 last year. Mr. Straker also reported that BIMAP had pruned its losses from more than $500,000 to about $140,000. Up next, the weekly commentary.
Last week, CEO of Roberts Manufacturing, David Foster, blamed Barbadians for high prices in the supermarket, stating that roughly half of the locally produced food was dumped. It is past time that we produce food to support ourselves, but there are more underlying factors than wanting straight carrots, as Foster suggested. We need to move away from the perception that things produced overseas are better. We also challenge farmers, supermarkets, and vendors to step up their game. Consumers want value for their money and won't pay A prices for B-grade produce. Vendors in the markets prefer to dump their produce than lower the price. That is a no-win situation. And of course, it has to be better packaged, displayed, and priced in the supermarket to create that need for it. We all can do better.
Sport now, Windies Women have suffered another whitewash in Australia. Their 148-run clobbering at the hands of Australia women, condemning them to a 4-0 one-day international series loss following a similar result in the T20s. A promising start by West Indies in response to 275 for 5 turned into a batting collapse as they were skittled out in 24.5 overs, losing 8 wickets for 23 runs in the process. Barbadian teenager Hayley Matthews continued her good form, top scoring with 37. And finally, last week we told you about a pawn shoot in a church. Now we hear that Australia's Newcastle University has steam cleaned its library after officials discovered a student was using the facility to film pornographic videos. Officials said staff were informed in October that a student had been filming sexually explicit videos in the facility and posting them to a pay-per-view pornographic website. Officials said parts of the library were ordered to be steam cleaned and pictures of the student were given to staff with instructions to alert security if she entered the library. I wonder what they would have done. And that's Nation News for Tuesday. For more, log on to nationnews.com as well as YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And get your Midweek Nation on Wednesday.